Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. I am just going to use the preview mode to teach the lesson today, but you guys can click on the self-paced assessment in today's folder, which is November the 30th, and we're gonna go ahead and get started. Okay, so in this lesson, you will understand what an air mass is and how air masses are classified and where air masses form in the United States. So the first thing you guys had was an open-ended question where it says, in your own words, explain what an air mass is. So in your own words, explain what an air mass is, and I'm going to go to the next slide. And then this slide here tells what an air mass is. And so it tells you that an air mass is a large body of air that has similar temperature, humidity, and pressure. It also goes on to say that air masses are named for where they form, over land or over water, and if the air mass is humid or if it is dry. It tells you that temperature affects the air temperature. So cold air is more dense and it sinks. Therefore, it has more pressure. Warm air is less dense and air rises. Therefore, it has less air pressure. So when I kind of think about this, I try to think about objects. So when I think about objects, with the cold air is more dense, I try to think of two different things. I think about maybe like a baby versus a human being. So if I have a baby that weighs 10 pounds versus a human that weighs 110 pounds, that human being that weighs the most is going to apply more pressure versus that 10-pound baby. That 10-pound baby is not going to apply that much pressure. And so I try to make connections. So with the cold air being more dense, it's going to sink. That's just like if I was to sit on a I can't even think of the name of it, but something that you may sit on that could go down versus if you put maybe a baby on it, it may not do anything, because in this case the baby will be less dense. Okay, so again, cold air is more dense, it's going to sink, therefore having more air pressure. Warm air is less dense and it's going to rise, therefore having less air pressure. Tropical air masses, they have warmer temperatures and lower air pressure. When I think about the word tropical, I think about sunny, warm places. When I think about polar, I think about cold places or the different poles. Now, there are four major types of air masses that affect the weather in the United States. So the first one is continental polar. The second is continental tropical. The third is maritime polar. The fourth is maritime tropical. And so here are the characteristics of each air mass. So these are the four air masses that I've just talked about. And so air masses are classified by two things. They're classified by the humidity and they're classified by temperature. Those are the two ways that air masses are classified. So we have the continental polar, okay? So the first word is dealing with the humidity. Well, continental means like land, okay? And so continental by meaning land, I think of dry. So try to make that connection. Continental, land, dry. Polar is the second word, which means cool. When you think about polar, you're thinking about cool temperatures. That's what the word cool is representing, the temperature. The word dry is representing the humidity. The abbreviation is going to be CP, continental polar. So then we have continental dry. Okay, or I'm sorry, continental tropical. And so continental, again, land, dry, that's the humidity. And then the temperature is going to be warm because of the word tropical. CT is the abbreviation. Excuse me. Maritime, which is your first word, is going to describe the humidity. So if it's wet or moist, that's representing maritime. Polar is going to stay the same, cool. So air in this area is going to be wet or moist and it's going to be cool. Maritime tropical, wet or moist, temperature warm, MT. So there you have a video that you guys can watch. I'm not going to play the video, but you guys can play it at your own time when you watch the self-paced lesson. Because again, although you're watching this lesson, in order for you to hear the video, you're going to need to watch the self-paced lesson. This is just a repeat of one of the other slides where again it talks about cool air, more dense, it sinks and it has more pressure. Warm air, less dense, it rises, less air pressure. And then again, it's talking about the two types of air masses, tropical air masses and polar air masses, and describing what happens. Tropical air masses, they have their warm temperature, therefore the pressure is low. Polar air masses have cooler temperatures and higher air pressures. So this is just going back to the ways that air masses are classified, and they're classified by the temperature and they're classified by their humidity. On the video that you guys are going to watch, is going to talk about how air masses are classified again by humidity and temperature, and they're going to talk about each one. So this first fact is, it just talks about how the air at the poles, whether it be North Pole or South Pole, they're cold basically. Okay. And then the tropical air mass, they form in the tropics near the equator. And so that area there is warm. And then with this is just talking about the third fact, it says polar air masses bring cool temperatures and tropical air masses bring warm temperatures to the area. Okay. So again, polar air masses, cool temperatures, tropical air masses, warmer temperatures. The facts about the humidity. Now, when we're talking about the humidity, either it's going to be dry or either it's going to be wet and moist, kind of like the opposite of each other. So if it's continental air that moves over land, and so continental air moves over land and it doesn't have an opportunity to gain moisture because it's not forming over a large ocean. It's forming over land, and land is considered to be dry. Therefore, the continental is going to be dry. Maritime air masses, they form over ocean and they get a lot of moisture from the ocean beneath them thanks to evaporation. And then the third fact is, the warmer the air is, the more moisture, water, vapor it can hold. And this is called relative humidity. Okay, so that is just this information here. This right here is the fill in the blank. So when we're doing this fill in the blanks, it says the characteristics of maritime polar air mass is that it has blank air and blank temperatures. So as it talks about its air, we're going to look at the first word, which is maritime. Maritime deals with the humidity. Okay. And so because it deals with the humidity, I know when we see maritime on the past slides, I said moisture or wet, but that's not one of our choices. So the best answer is going to be humid, because that wet and moist is describing the humidity. So I'm going to draw here humid. And then the second word is polar, and we know polar is going to bring about cooler temperatures. The characteristics of a continental tropical air mass is that it has continental, we talked about, is going to have dry air. Okay, the humidity is going to be dry, and then the temperatures, because it says tropical, are going to be warm. So that's the answer to that. This is a map of our particular our country or the continent that we live on, which is North America. Okay, so with that being said, we have this area over here. Here's our key. The M represents maritime, the P represents polar, the C represents continental, the T represents tropical. So I have maritime, polar. Well, all this area, this space out here is considered to be water. And so you might as well say, or I am saying, that it is forming over an ocean. And so because this particular air mass is forming over an ocean, that's why it has an M. Canada is considered to be a cold, it gets cold in Canada. Okay, it's not to say that it never warms up, but most of the time it has cooler temperatures. So all of the, and it's closer to the poles. So because this area is closer, like to the poles, it's going to have, all of these are going to have P's, and they're going to have P's representing the temperature of cool. This is going to be CP because it is on land. This says continental polar because this particular bubble is on land. And then this bubble here is going to be MP, maritime polar, because this particular air mass is forming over water. Then we're going to go down here, and these are by closer to the warmer areas. So this is going to be maritime tropical because it again is forming over the ocean, but because the temperature in this area is tropical, that means it's going to have warmer temperatures. The T stands for tropical, not the T stands for tropical, and tropical is representing temperature, and that's going to be warmer because this bubble is on Mexico, which is land. Is going to be dry and warm, continental tropical. And then this bubble is in the Gulf of Mexico, which is under us, and it's going to be maritime tropical, meaning it's going to be wet and moist and warm. This slide right here is just a review of what I just spoke about at on the previous page. Now here is a fact. When air masses move into an area, the air mass brings with it either warmer or cooler temperatures and humid or less humid air. When two air masses of different temperatures and humidities meet, that causes a front. On the next couple of pages, you have a quiz that you guys will need to answer the questions to. There are 8 questions. So I'm just going to just kind of go through those, just going through them, but I'm basically through. I'm going to stop sharing this particular page, and I'm going to share another page. And I'm just going to a Schoology class, and just so you guys know what I am expecting. So I'm clicking on Monday, and so I have here the homework. Ed Puzzle Air Mass is just giving you the directions of what to do if you do not already know what to do. Also, I am going to go to Ed Puzzle, and I have don't really want to do that. All right, so basically I have changed the due dates on stuff. So the heat transfer, the connection convection, or the global warming or heating, those things need to be completed, as well as the air masses. The convection connection, the global warming, the heating, those need to make sure, if you haven't already done so, those need to be completed by today. And then the air masses need to be completed by Tuesday. I hope this recording has helped you guys out, and I will see you tomorrow, possibly with another recording. Bye. Enjoy the rest of your day.